Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody inside and outside the ballpark. My name is NovedPlayer, and welcome to episode 41 of the Noved Nodes podcast, where we talk about many different types of creators and communities inside of the platform. I'm your host, and with me today, as you can already see because the camera decided to jump, I have the technical marketing for Hikky Global and Virtual Market, Lhun. Lhun, welcome to the
Hi.
podcast. Hope you're doing good.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll say for those that are watching, yeah, we had to do this twice now because of technical issues on my end. So we'll see how this
The
goes.
second take of the intro is always better, so don't worry.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, so first and foremost, Lon, for the general listening audience at home, what exactly do you do inside of VR chat?
Well, I've been like as a regular player like everybody else. I've been creating content for a very long time. When currently I'm working with PR and marketing and technical I guess technical marketing, so showing off what we do at Vket at Virtual Market, which is happening in I think 14 or 13 days now. So you'll be able to see a bunch of that stuff coming up soon. Previously, I did a lot more like insider work and some development. I still do sometimes do some development for Vket and Music Vket and Comic Vket and Game Vket. But I've been playing since 2014, and I think my start date is whenever the Amazon database kicked in. So it's like I believe it's like June or July of 2015. So that's how long I've been here. So world creator, I do programming, I do avatar creation. I've got my own avatars. I do a lot of custom work for people. A little bit of everything. It's good to know. I think I know a little bit of everything that goes on in this platform and can do a little bit of everything. Everything except I'm not very good at shaders. I do a little, but I'm not very good at shaders. I think that's about it.
No, fair enough.
Do a lot of recording and live streaming too, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely got a whole portfolio on your plate. I was gonna say,
Mm.
as this episode is airing, Winter VCAT and Music VCAT 6 will actually be live. So this is your time to go check out after this episode, of course, when you watch this episode, go check out Virtual Market, Winter Virtual Market, and Music VCAT 6. You'll see myself at Music VCAT 6, as well as some of the other people I've had on the podcast at Winter Virtual Market. Winter VCAT.
There you go.
It's weird
Yeah,
saying Winter Virtual Market.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah, I can't believe it's already here. Like, so we ran this one a little bit quicker than we normally do. So we usually do summer VCAT in June or July, and this time we did it in August. And so to have it early December, so that we're not like jumping on top of people's Christmas time, like, because it's not of a big deal in Japan. Like the whole Christmas season is not it's special, but it's not like a holiday that everybody takes off. In America, you've got Thanksgiving and then Christmas. People are just done by like the second week of December, right? Like they're just done. Like they're not working. Nobody's doing anything. So we timed it a little bit better, so it was just before Christmas, and we hope people buy some Christmas gifts for their family, maybe a new avatar or something like that. So like that's kind of the plan, and so it's happening sooner than usual. So it feels crazy fast because it is crazy fast. It's a little bit sooner than normal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was gonna one of the first questions I wanted to ask. So what got you into VR chat in the first place?
Oh wow. So VRChat is exactly the application that that. So I was always into MMORPGs. I played like David Bowie's Bowie World. Straz has a really cool like long form documentary on like the early days of the metaverse. I was all there. I was there in all of that. In 1998 when Serial Experiments Lane came out, that was my jam. I'm like, oh my god, this is perfect. Always been a fan of virtual reality. Like I don't know if you know about the David Cronenberg film Existenz. I love to like bring people into VR chat and show them that film and be like look, in the 90s we were almost there. We almost had VR as like a normal thing. I had a Virtual Boy, so VR chat was just like a natural thing for me to join, right? So I saw they were developing the application. Jesse and Graham were talking about it on social media in a few places, and like the founders, and I jumped on like right away. So I was here before Ron joined and everybody else. So it was just one of those things, right? There was other virtual platforms too. Like I was in AltSpace. I was in an app called Converge as well, and the early version of the Wave VR when it was the Wave VR and not the Wave XR, and then now they're going back to VR, which is cool. So I was there too. Saw some of the early experimental stuff. Saw some of Grimecraft's early stuff before VR Chat came out. So yeah, this is just like an extension. We knew one of these social VR apps would come out, but VR Chat from the beginning was like the most capable with the most freedom. And I already knew Unity, so it was perfect. It was like really good. one other thing that got me really into it is, and this video is unlisted now, but because it's not like accurate anymore. But I have a video in 2015, and it might have been the first one of its kind, where it's like how to make MMD models work, so Miku Miku Dance models work in VR chat. And I released that video in 2015, and it went super viral on YouTube and also the Russian website Vk for a while. And it was the first tutorial where you could get like an anime avatar into VR chat, and that was like a thing that everybody wanted to do, like because the stuff that was there originally was just like the Adobe Mechanim or Meccano or whatever the heck it's called, no, Adobe's like auto rigging thing. It was a bunch of those and a bunch of other stock things from Unity and other stuff like that. That was the only like avatar choices, but you could upload one. But the things that people were uploading were all Mixamo rigs and other stuff like that, just like public models. But MMD models have always been like super high quality. They always had the Vizemes for all of the Yamaha facial sync stuff for Vocaloid. And so when I realized like, oh, you could make all the AEIOU stuff work for all of Oculus's Vizemes and all of VR Chat's Vizemes, which are borrowed from that, and then all of the other stuff, I was like, oh, well, this is perfect. So I started uploading like MMD models, and then I wrote a tutorial in 2015 on how to do it, and that just sort of took off, and it became super notorious, actually. Like super notorious, because it was using a tool by a person called Nora-chan from Stereo Arts, and it was a Japanese website that took like it was a Unity extension that took like a MMD model and converted it into Unity's like bone system, and then it would upload it to VR chat. But obviously in Japan, copyright's very different from here, and they didn't understand that VR chat was not like a standalone application that was owned by someone, and you weren't uploading it for like monetization purposes. But I don't think they understood that due to the language barrier. I know that Nora now plays VR chat, so it's like it's no big deal. But back then, it was so bad that they had to that they actually put malware in the application, and it would delete the VR chat executable from your Unity
Oh
install,
wow.
which was crazy. Yeah, so and that was my fault. So that was like, yeah, that's how I got my start. And ever since then, I've been like, now I work for the company that helps everybody have free and or paid legal models in VR chat that aren't like game rips and stuff like that. And it feels like it's just like a redemption arc my entire VR chat career since 2014. So yeah, because I started this whole trend of uploading anime stuff to VR chat, and so I don't want to claim this, but people have told me I'm the reason that VR chat is anime, which is kind of fun. So it's an okay title to have. I don't know if I got to prove it first. I think there might have been a couple other people like me doing that back then, like Digitrevix, but that's about it. But he makes his own model, so it's a whole other thing.
Fair. So I guess kind of, because that's a extensive, definitely, when it comes to like how you got into VR chat. So I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask, kind of going into the origins. So how did you get involved with Hikky Global and Virtual Market?
Well, the timing's really good. So I'm sure you've played a little bullet time agent. I haven't yet. I haven't had time to.
I have
really
not
want
yet.
To,
I really want
to.
to, but I haven't been able to yet.
Yeah. So by the time you guys watch this, probably will have. So Lukuza was approached by Fio early on, because he was looking for somebody who knew the Japanese scene really well, and with Lukuza's Lounge, he was always doing J-pop and J-rock and other stuff like that, like in there. So it's like obviously he has, and he's in the games industry, so he has a bit of knowledge of like the Japanese game culture and media culture and that sort of stuff. Virtual Market started in 2018, and I was also very, very aware of Vket and when I was very active with VRC prefabs, I still hang out with them. Very active with VRC prefabs. I was doing, we were doing world hops through Vket when it first came out in like 2018, 2019. So Vket 1, 2, 3, right, and so on. And I was very aware of them. I spoke incredibly rudimentary Japanese at the time, or I knew enough to know enough. Like I knew enough to be dangerous, but I didn't know enough. Now I'm getting better, but I still don't feel like I know anything. I still don't feel like I can speak it. I can understand a little bit, but I'm better, but not like, I had overconfidence, I think, back then. But the point was I knew enough about Japanese stuff, and I was really obsessed with like Miku Miku Dance and the creator community behind like Niku Niku Dogu and those sites doing 3D models and the kind of 3D models that I kind of understood what Vket was going for, where they were trying to say, okay, we got creators in VR chat, they're making legitimate stuff, some of them come from that scene. And I was like, oh, it was natural for me. So I can actually point out some creators in Vket that go all the way back to 2009 when Miku Miku Dance came out, and now they're here, right? Because it just makes sense. It's a natural extension of the same sort of like physics-based body movement stuff. And so I was always interested in that. So to get back to Bullet Time Agent and Lakuza, Lakuza was approached by Theo, one of the three founders of Vket, and he said, "Hey, can you come, work with us and do this?" He's like, "Well, I got a job, like I can't, but here's some people," and he recommended me. And ever since then, that's pretty much it. So it's been pretty good. So I do owe that introduction to Theo for sure. But I'm one of the only members. I'm the only original member of Global Team that's still here. So there you
Oh
go.
wow. A little bit of
Hmm.
the lore. That's crazy. I was to say
Hmm.
because with how big Hikky Global and VCAT have grown over the years, like it's definitely
Yeah.
not an easy feat to say the least. Because it gets bigger. It feels like it gets bigger every year. To some
It does.
extent.
It does. It does actually get bigger. Yeah. So if you want, I'll give you a quick little history runtime of like
Sure.
what VCAT's all about. So I've been here since 2019. VCAT started in 2018. We didn't get out of debt essentially as a company until 2020 or just before 2020. So VCAT 5 is when we started getting enough sponsors that like we got Panasonic and Sony and Netflix and Disney and groups like that. And that's when the company finally like got out of its debt because it was basically like funded entirely by Funakoshi and Fio like off of their own credit. Like they started it that way. And so they spent a lot of their money to get the company up and running, and we had a very small number of employees at the time. So I think I'm a member of the original like 17 or 18 people that started Hikky, so we were just like a small startup. And then what we did is I was aware of the AIXR VR awards, and around the time the pandemic had started, so like 2019, 2020, I was like, we should really enter these. I think we have some of the best marketing. They've got a category for marketing. I think we're one of the best marketing agencies right now, especially in VR by far. And we had just done VCAT 2020 with Miyavi and Netflix, and we had Ghost in the Shell there and Disney, and we thought, well, okay, this is we had Godzilla. Like this would be like the perfect time to go in and try to win an award and get some recognition. So I spent many late nights writing up a long and extensive like nomination application for AIXR. So and that award is actually December 5th, and we're just a like spoiler alert, we're a finalist again finally, which is cool. But that's what started it. So when we got the AXR VR awards, all these other companies started paying attention to us. So they're like, "Oh my god, look at these guys!" And finally, we got like some international attention of like what we were doing outside of VR chat. And they're like, "Oh, well, you guys have like Audi, and you guys have Sony, and you guys have Disney, and like they're like, who's Hikky?" And so that started getting some attention both in Japan and outside. Then we won an XR Kai Guy award right after that too. And it was just really awesome to see it like go from where we still felt kind of small to okay, we've got these international artists and all this other cool stuff going on. And that's when we started making money again. And then we got a round A funding from NTT Docomo, which is like Japan's Verizon. And
Mm.
we closed that round A funding with about 7 billion yen, which is about in America dollars in 2020. That was like about 70 million bucks. And so we started adding more employees, and then it started to grow, right? So VCAT 6 was huge, VCAT 2021 was huge. We had Verbal from Teriyaki Boys and PKCs come in and do something, and we did the thing with Miyavi with his level 4 online event, and then we started Music VCAT, and that just got more and more attention and more companies interested in working with us, and it's been great ever since. So now we're in this situation where we're VRChat's biggest event partner, and we have these real world events that are going on right now. So I know this won't air till after, but for you, definitely sign up for the VCAT walk so you can come be in the robot, and we can carry you around in Japan. But yeah, having a real world convention after so many years, that's been like the next biggest thing. And I go to every one. So I fly out from Canada to Japan every 6 months or so or less, and go to Tokyo and hang out at this convention with 50,000 interested people at each venue like over 2 days. It's just crazy. Like it's crazy to think like that's a stadium over 2 days of people coming to check out like what is in effect VR chat and social VR culture, which is just the coolest thing in the world. So it's like yeah, that's the with the timeline. That's where we're at now. We're about to get to VCAT Real Winter 2024 in Ikebukuro in Tokyo this time.
Which remind me when is VCAT real
It's
for?
the last 2 days of VCAT always. So it'll be the 20th and 21st if you're in North America, or the 21st, 22nd if you're in Australia.
We'll throw it up on the screen. But but yeah, no. For those that are in the area or can go out to the area, definitely go check it out. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
come check out the live streams. So lots of people live streaming it too at the same time.
true. Yeah, I was gonna say because I know I did see some like video footage from last year's VCat reel, and it looked like a
Hmm.
genuine amazing time. And you actually do have
Oh, it's a riot.
yeah, so you actually do have some of the the photo scanned worlds inside of VR chat
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, if you're interested in what it could look like, go check. I'll throw the world links down below. Go check out some of the photo scanned worlds because they're really cool. Like it's kind of cool
Yeah,
to
it's awesome.
see how exactly like it formatted and what all is
That
there.
that shows the passion of our fans, though, right? Because those photo scan rolls, they're not even done by us. They're done by a guy named PONDA from the VRC like photogrammetry group. Like they have a VRC scan group they're like a regular group in VR chat, and they do photo scans and photogrammetry and stuff. And ever since the first VCat reel, he's been scanning them. I think he's working as staff this time. I'm almost 100% sure he's working as staff this time. But he's always just been a regular exhibitor. Like he's been a VCat exhibitor for many years, and he started exhibiting at VCat Reel because he does robots and stuff, like which is just crazy. And they do like 3D scans and robots, which is talk about overachieving. The guy's really cool. And he does these photogrammetry scans, and he did it in all three cities this summer. So we were in Osaka, which is like the other side of the country. It's like 800 kilometers away. He had like a proxy dude there scanning, and then he had two other buildings that were scanned this time. But yeah, go check him out. Ponda's amazing. Huge shout out to him for scanning those because we've used them in our live streams to show people, like, because people don't get it, like they don't know how big VCat Reel is, and like being able to see, oh wow, it's this giant convention space to scale with all these like cool sponsors. Like, oh wow, we owe him for that for sure. I'll say.
Oh, for sure. So I guess kind of to kind of go down the timeline a little bit because we talked about kind of how you got started with
Hmm.
both VR Chat and like Virtual Market and Hikky Global. So I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask, because you've done it for so many years,
Hmm.
is there a particular VCat that you were the most fond of?
Oh, probably five. That was the one I was most involved with. Five and six and seven. I would say. So that's like VCat 5, VCat 6, VCat 2021. 2021 is like six winter. And we those I did a lot of direct programming and building and world building. I worked on almost every single world as well as like the team. Like did lighting stuff. I did optimization. I built the entire like the whole Miyavi level 4 show. That was all me. And like that was like and being able to work with an international star. If you don't know who he is, he's a guitar like one of the best guitarists in the world, if you ask me. And he was in like the early Visual K guitar scene. But if you've ever watched Arcane, which is currently airing on Netflix, in the first season he was the character Finn. He's also been on many other Disney shows. He was like the White Angel in Maleficent and Maleficent 2. He was in the movie Kate on Netflix. And he's got his own Guitar World. So like you go to Guitar Center, you can like buy a Miyavi Telecaster. So the guy's that big.
Hmm.
And being able to work directly with an artist that huge and produce like a unique visual experience that he'd never done before, that sticks with me as like one of my favorite things that I've ever done. But that's the past. A lot of new VCats are really visually amazing, and I really enjoy a lot of the really cool worlds that are out there. I would say VCat 5 from a sentimental point definitely like hits for me, but I would say VCat 2022 and 2023 and all the recent ones have been like they're just such a step up from what they were before that it's hard to say that was a better time. There's definitely more Western exhibitors in VCat 5. There was a ton, and then we had sort of a drop off. And now with this one, I think that this winter 2024 is going to be really exciting because there's people like yourself and way more exhibitors from the Western side. So whatever we're doing this year, it works, and I think having Chato Sensei on our team is helping too. Like it feels like we're finally getting to where we need to be
Mhm.
after 2 or 3 years of stagnation. So it's really nice.
No, fair. And I'll say because I remember you actually had came to the Serpinski event, and you had asked me
Hmm.
to apply for Music VCat, which I already applied for regular VCat.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I already applied for Winter VCat, but you're like, no, apply for Music VCat. I'm like, okay, this applies for Music VCat.
You can do both. Why not?
Yeah,
At least
yeah.
you get in. And did you get in? You didn't get into regular VCAT, or did you get into?
No, just the Music VCat. I applied for all of
Yeah.
them,
So
and
that's why I'm
yeah,
glad you applied to both. I'm glad you
yeah.
applied to both because you never know, right? Music VCAT is near and dear to me because I helped start it. So it was, that one I love. I love it a lot.
Oh yeah, I'll say
Big music VCAT. fan.
A lot of the guests that I've had on the podcast had gotten accepted into Winter VCAT this year. I know like Lion
That's
Turtle
huge.
from Metaverse DGen got accepted. Showpow got accepted. I know a few others as well. Like they're all super excited for Winter VCAT, and I'm like, I'll see you guys
Awesome.
there
It's really good.
across the way over in Music VCAT.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And a lot of these people are people I've met in the recent, in recently, and getting to know this, like the younger community, because I'm actually a little bit older. I may not active, but I'm a little bit older, and it's nice to see this younger community who's very talented, who's making doing things, creating stuff, learning how to 3D model, learning Unity, and it's because and seeing the passion of the new people that are coming in. Like VRChat's never had more players ever. So it was always Friday night was the big night because it would multiply like the Japanese users and the North American people. But now it's it's more. It's like it's more on Saturdays, which shows that there's a massive jump in users. There's been also VRChat Japan has had its like Ugandan Knuckles moment recently, so that happened. And so there's an interesting stat I read the other day where 2% of the entire population of Japan plays VRChat.
Wow,
Just VRChat. Yeah, it's crazy.
2%. That's
2%.
That's
2%. 137. Well, you got to think about it. 137 million people, right, in the whole country, and there's like an estimate of about 10 million or 5 million or 6 million users, right, from Japan or that area. So there you go.
That's a
2%.
wild. That's a wild thing to think about.
Oh yeah.
I remember
the rest of the world.
it's funny you mentioned the Uganda Knuckles movement in like Japan. I remember, and if I find it, I'll throw it up on the screen. But there was a small clip of a Uganda Knuckles with face tracking.
Oh yeah.
And he was just eating ramen, and then it just put a little smile at the end. I'm like, that is the most adorable yet cursed thing I've ever seen.
Adorable but cursed is also like how VRChat works, right? Like it goes viral every now and then online, and people don't know what game is this, and you can't tell sometimes, right? Like you've got these like really high fidelity worlds like the one we're in, and sometimes you can't tell, right, that it's VRChat, and you have these moments, or you have these like really weird viral moments. Like a good example is I'm sure you've seen the Make Hamburger Country nice video. Have you've seen that one?
I have.
So yeah, so that the history behind that. So her name is Chan, and she's actually a voice actress and gamer and streamer now. And she got like popular because of that meme, and because the creator actually like said, okay, this is who this is, right? They linked her out. So she's like, oh, I'm a streamer, I love America, blah blah blah. So that got her popular enough that now she streams, but she's actually a VCAT ambassador this year, believe it or not.
Oh nice. Oh nice.
But you'll see her with the blue hair. Yeah. So but yeah, Chan, she's really badass at first person shooters and stuff too, and does artwork and all kinds of stuff. So these people are like way beyond just the meme stuff, but like those funny clips, right? Like those clips that are interesting and viral, that's what catches people, and then they come in here and they're stuck forever. You know what I mean? They can't leave. That's how it happens. And I mean, I came before it was viral, but at the same time, I really like people say, "Oh man, freaking Ugandan Knuckles, we ruined the game," or whatever. Or even like before that, like the Dragon Maid, Kana-chan, and like all that stuff. I don't think so. I think that stuff's really important because you got to have your viral moments. Like it's games like Phasmophobia. Here's a bit of funny history. If you scroll all the way back on TFM Johnny's channel, right? So he's an example of a person who has helped make this game bigger. If you scroll all the way back on his channel to the very, very, very beginning, you'll find a compilation video of him playing Amnesia over like TeamSpeak with his friends, and that was his first viral video on YouTube. Way before, like he took it like a 5 to 10 year hiatus, and that game got popular because of that video that he made, right? Because it's a scare fest, right? And that stuff popularizes games like Phasmophobia get big in VR because people play them, and VRChat is of course, the streaming community is super duper important. So the stuff you do, the stuff that every little meme contributes to people actually checking it out, because you can't tell people what VR is until you slap a headset on them, right? And it's so impossible, so I don't have any problem with that sort of like viral, as long as it's good news, not bad news, right?
Right, of course.
Any of that viral stuff,
Yeah, I was gonna
So I think
say.
it's good. I think it's good for this platform.
Oh, for sure. And I also think, like, at least in my personal opinion, like, one of the biggest reasons why VR chat is as huge as it is, compared to other VR chat games and platforms, like, this is a free platform that's made from the community or by the community for the community, realistically. And I've said
Hmm.
this, I know I've said this on a few episodes already, but the developers of VR Chat, they allow us to log into the game. They have features into the game, but without the worlds, the avatars and the experiences, the unforgettable bonds and friendships, like this platform wouldn't exist, So
Yeah,
that's
no, it's true.
good.
Some of it's luck, yeah. Some of it's luck. Some of it's people getting together and doing stuff. And for me, that's the same thing too. I just want to show people stuff. I want people. I'm way more passionate about what everyone else is doing in VCAT because I'm that like overhype, super positive, deer in the headlights kind of guy. Like, I can't believe you made this amazing thing, and I'm really happy when I see other amazing stuff that people have made over the years, and I just want to hype it up. And so I feel like I'm in such a cool position to be able to basically that's my job, right? Like to go in and hype up all this other amazing stuff that people made and hope to like educate people, but it's getting so big now. It's really hard to get through. Like I don't think I could hit it all. Like there was a time when I could be at every single quest map as they got uploaded. Right, I'd seen every single one up until Christmas, and then after Christmas it started getting a little harder to see all of them. I might be able to see them all in a week, but now it's impossible. Like there's so much content
Mhm.
uploaded to this platform, and I want people to see it. And the good stuff sometimes gets buried, and I'm so blessed because of VCAT, right? Because some of the best creators will get in there and then they'll have videos and pictures and their avatars and all this cool stuff they can do. And they're able to showcase them, and it's like channel surfing. You just walk past a booth and you're like, I didn't even know this was a thing. And then like there's some of the greatest creations in here that just go completely unseen. But VCAT and Virality and like oh god. And like there's one going on right now for like tabletop RPGs. And I don't know if you know about that, but that's like it's in the menu right now. A bunch of the Japanese community does tabletop RPG stuff, and it's actually pretty big in here, and nobody knows about it. But now, for the first time, they're being showcased in the World's List, the Virtual Dice Party 2024, and
Mm.
like I know a bunch of people that worked on that, and so that's a whole other facet that people don't see, right? And like or like even where we are now in xCirrex's community here, there's Laserdome has a huge community, Battle Disc has a huge community, and has been a huge community for a very long time. And there's all kinds of groups like that that don't get seen, but something like VCAT, I'm able to show that off, and it makes me really really happy. That's what I love to do, right?
Yeah.
And so when you take those viral videos and images, it extends to like really viral tech that people have shown off. It's like, oh my God, I'm controlling my ears with my brain, with my Notion BCI device, and people are like, how is this possible, right? Like it's fun to have those moments, right, and be the guy that gets to show them off, right? It's so fun.
Oh yeah, and I was gonna say, you kind of briefly glazed over it, so I kind of do want to get some opinions from you on it. So there are
Hmm.
more Western-based festivals. You mentioned Virality.
Yep.
We got Project Community. And a few
Hmm.
others, and Cozy Con, and there's a lot,
Hmm.
but so I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you, since you've been doing this type of thing for so long, what is something that you see when it comes to the more Western centralized festivals that, you know,
Hmm.
what are some pros in the regards of like stuff that you've seen?
Oh, well, I would say that there's a larger like RP community, or at least more organized RP community on the Western side. I myself am not super into that, but I can see the appeal, and people like that. I think that's a pro to like the Western side communities, and especially bringing some of that to VCAT too to share. But I think like Project Community, and that's a group that I've worked with for a really long time, and they're a bit of an offshoot from VRCon, which I was deeply involved in and on the staff originally too, right? And during VCAT 5. And uh, I think that's the thing. If you're looking for a community or a group of people that you can work with or make cool stuff with or just have fun with, I think the Western style side is more geared towards like those communities more than anything, like community groups. So I think that's a benefit to the Western side coming in because they show those things. We also, I think the Western side has, I wouldn't say better, but it's more different, more organized, more serious music community as well. And I really love electronic music. I always have, like since I was a teenager. Like went to parties since I was a kid, like probably too young to go to them. I loved going to raves and stuff, and EDM festivals. And we have that here again, and it feels like the early 90s, right? And that's something that the Western community does better than anyone else. And I think that that's amazing. Like with the Western and Europe. So like you get things like VRCDN being developed. You get stuff like Shelter VR Club, Slyfest, and even PGKT's festivals. But then Miss Stabby with Syntax Error Stockholm also, like that club's pretty special, and a lot of people don't know it. But those sorts of things are really really unique, and it's starting to draw like a worldwide presence. Like PK's core events, they have, I would say, 50% of people that go to those are Japanese, because it's just visually mind-blowing, right? And I think the Western side has that as a strength, with their festivals, because it's very music focused. It's very like festival-y, so it feels like going to Burning Man every weekend in here. So it's kind of nice.
That's how I know you're dating yourself, is because not a lot of the newer generations remember Burning Man. Yeah, that's a
oh yeah, for sure.
that's a good one.
I guess I could talk about my age a little bit. I don't hide it. I'm 41. I'll be 42 in March, and I have a 15-year-old that plays VR chat. And I have a wife who plays VR chat. She's been in here as long as I have, so 2015, right? So it's crazy to have the three of us like be able to experience like this other place, right? It's pretty neat.
Hello everyone, real quick, just want to pause the episode right here. I want to thank you all so much for watching this far into the video. Just to let you know, myself and a bunch of other creators that were on the podcast are going to be featured at Winter Vket, as well as Music Vket 6. So please make sure to go to the Worlds tab, go check out all of the Winter Vket as well as Music Vket 6 Worlds. Much love to Lhun for coming on the podcast and talking more about Vket. But yeah, make sure to go check out all of the worlds in the VRC tab. Under the worlds, you'll see the little Winter Virtual Market 2024. Go check it out. It's going to be great. You might see me there. But yeah, I want to thank you all so much for watching. And with that, let's get right back into the episode. Woo! Yeah, I remember we were at I can never pronounce the name of the map, but it was the one from that was also featured at HorrorCon. But I remember it was
Komurasaki Village.
Komurasaki Village, yeah. I remember it was me, you, your wife, and your child. I got to meet them. It was a really cool experience. And just be like, oh wow, that's cool. And like, yeah, I it's always cool to like meet people like in the sense of like, I guess the best way of phrasing it's like just getting to meet people that are more connected to the player than just another person online. Like I guess that's
one thing about me is that like one of the things I said before, like no knock on the RP community, that's cool and all. I it's enjoyable. I know I played MMORPGs, I can get the appeal. I played some D&D and Vampire Masquerade, like I get that, right? But I don't do it in here as much or on the internet as much as I try to be my genuine self, right? And I think my family also is kind of that way. So we are ourselves, in here. My soul is the glasses, the piercings. That's me IRL too, right? So that carries on every avatar I have, right? That's how I look IRL. So that I try to be my genuine self in here to everybody I talk to, right? So it's pretty fun.
No, and that's a relatable thing. I was gonna say, like myself specifically, like granted the mask is, it's the look, but I mean this DJ logo is like my IRL DJ logo, and the branding on my sleeves, those are the choruses I sing with IRL. I sing barbershop, hence the hat, but everything else, like this is just essentially for the most part what I look like. I don't really I kind of understand like going as yourself inside of VR chat. I get that to an extent.
And if you have the confidence to do so. A lot of people, I would say the younger groups are trying to figure themselves out, as well. And some people want to play it as a game, which I can understand. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be Master Chief. I mean, the character's cool, right? So like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And I totally think those communities are incredible. And what, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just two sides of a different coin. A lot of people in Japan do both. So in Japan, there's a lot of like a lot of like specific cultural groups and topical groups. Like there's a succubus club that was big enough that we had them in VCAT in a bar scene. There was and like they don't like they're not skirting the edge of TOS or anything. It's just like the aesthetic, right? Like it's a
Yeah,
bar,
yeah.
it's like a maid cafe. There's like there's other groups that are in theme. Like there's ones that do like Egyptian characters and whatever, and they'll go and do those group events for 1 hour or 2 hours, and then that's it. And then they'll come back and be themselves inside VR chat, which is really cool. Like I think that people who do that. I think the closest I come to that is Mokuri Project. It's a Hikky IP that's made by the same creator as Made in Abyss, the anime.
Mm.
And they play VR chat as well, which is really amazing. They work for Hikky doing artistic stuff, and it's neat to see like that. Like almost like adoptable species kind of thing, where people like have that RP community, and there's a whole lore and characters and stuff behind it. So I think that's where I started like dabbling in like that kind of RP community, and so based on that lens, I understand it now, and so that's pretty cool. And so I hype that community up a lot too. But there's a lot of those in Japan, and we see less of it here. It seems like people bleed in their like their RP characters into regular everyday stuff, right?
Mm.
I think the music scene doesn't do that as much, and I think that's why I enjoy hanging out with that group as well, right? Because it's less of that and more of like, okay, we're doing this music event for everybody, right?
Yeah, no, of
So
course.
people are a little more their authentic selves. So I mean, I vibe with both, but yeah, there's definitely an appeal to not having to hide yourself, because you end up getting stuck. You're in this character, and now you can't be yourself outside of it, right? So
Right. No, and
I prefer the freedom.
full hardly, yeah, I agree. And I'll say from my experiences, um, because I wouldn't say role plays are considered more. I mean, there's role play communities around the world, obviously.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've had some on the podcast, for example. Like I know, I've already said their name earlier, probably, but Kocho no Yakuza, for example, the main two people that run it, they're from Czech Republic, and I've been
Hmm.
to some of their events, and they do phenomenal events. And then you have like you got like all the Warhammer communities, you have all the PvP role plays, all sorts of crazy stuff. But I could definitely understand, to say the least, like not wanting to like go into a character and then be yourself, rather than just be yourself the entire way. I get that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like I'd rather be able to like just be my authentic self and not be expected to play a character all the time, right? So I tend to be pretty genuine with people, both like at work and not, when I'm hanging out like this as well. Like I'm still me, right? I can get a bit annoying because I'm also super passionate about VCAD. Like I definitely am. So I'm sure that people get tired of it sometimes, but I'm not shilling. Like I just think it's genuinely cool, right? Because it is a community event, and for me, being able to show off that stuff, like I said earlier, is like the most important thing, because I want more people around the world, especially people with money and influence, to recognize that there's a very big scene here, and that if they don't get in on the ground floor, they'll miss out, because this is where everyone will be in 10 years, I think.
oh, hands down. And it's definitely an ever growing like community and platform. Like I mean,
Hmm.
as we've already said, like we keep reaching new heights when it comes to the concurrent player base, let alone the entire player base. I think the
There's
highest
way more players. Like,
good.
yeah, like it's been 105,000, right? The highest player base happens in the winter too, so it's
It
it's gonna be
was
crazy.
it was actually the highest we've actually hit as VR chat was 111,000. It was
Oh wow, I missed that.
yeah, I
Wow.
covered it on a previous episode. But yeah, no, Tupper had actually tweeted out. I think it was like 111, somewhere in like the upper, like lower upper, like teens. In that
Hmm.
regard, and it feels like it's just growing within every month. You get like
Yeah.
a couple hundred or a couple thousand each month. Um,
Oh, easy.
and yeah, I'm actually curious about how this winter season's gonna go, because usually that's the biggest scene for VR chat, is
Yeah.
that New Year's, which, as this episode will be in 3 weeks time. It's
Yeah.
we're gonna
That's
have some very
exciting.
interesting
Yeah, that
servers.
well, I think that because they've been hitting higher peaks than they've ever had on New Year's, before New Year's, they know how to handle it. And what's interesting is that on the 17th, when they hit that 115, 118, I didn't hear of any crashes at that time. I think there's been like maybe a half hour outage or something. So I actually have a lot of confidence for this New Year's. There'll be a lot of people signing in all at once, I think, but and which is a different scenario. But at the same time, I don't think the numbers will be a problem. I'm really excited. I think they'll be able to handle it now for the first time. Because they always have a little bit of trouble, and it's not always them. It's not always the users. It's people just trying to shit on VR chat, right?
Well, yeah.
So
I know I know last year in particular was when it was literally like 30 minutes before Central Time's New Year's, which was my New
yeah.
Year's, and the servers they completely gone. I had made the mistake of instance hopping, and I had happened to jump
Yep.
instances during the outage, and I couldn't get on the platform completely. But it was still celebrated and whatnot. But it was inconvenient timing, to say the least.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm hoping with this year, like, I'm gonna make sure I don't instance hop, an hour before. I'm gonna do like the first
Find
couple
somewhere
hours before.
cozy. Get in there. Yeah.
I'm probably gonna be.
Yeah, I usually do. I spend the whole day in there.
Yeah,
That's a big day for me too. I spend the whole day in there.
I'll say I'll probably be either in the project community instance, because that's, besides my own community, that's the one that I call home. But
Yeah, for sure.
but no, it's definitely crazy how further progressed VR chat came over the past 10 years that it's
The
been
last
out.
year has been pretty special. I mean, there's been some unfortunate things but I think they're thinking long term now, and so which is great. It was great for us too at Hikky that they're thinking long term, and it is unfortunate they had to downsize like their development team, but I can understand why. At the same time, and in Japan it's a bit of a different situation. Like a lot of the people we hire are very very specialistic, so we haven't had too much of that. We've had a little, but it's it wasn't as, I think it was overhyped. Like they talk about bubbles popping. I think it's in during the pandemic, nobody knew when the pandemic would end, right? Or if, right? So we didn't know what was going on. Like the world was changing. So we were very like lucky to have already structured our company around remote work back in 2018, and then the pandemic happened. It was just like business as usual for us, right? So it was very, very easy. Like most of our 60-70% of our employees are like remote. And for us, it was no big deal. But to go from that super high of like 2020, 2021, 2022 to, and from 2017 to where it is now, and to be bigger than it was then after the pandemic, especially going into a holiday season where people are indoors anyway, that's awesome. And I'm really looking forward to it. There's all new headsets coming out. There's new accessories coming out. Facebook has doubled down on VR, AR, and they're sticking with it, which some people thought wouldn't happen. And there's always your detractors that say, "Oh, VR is going to fail." I've never thought that. I have never, ever, ever once thought that OVR is going to fail, because we're in this point. Like you just have to use it to know. You get a high resolution headset. You're on a Quest 3. I'm on a big screen. I've got a Vario. Like you use that stuff and you're like, yeah, I can see this replacing my monitor. I love this compared to my monitor. It's 3D. I can see what I can put screens. I got screens and metrics and stuff all over while we're talking right now, and it's awesome. It beats the pants off of sitting in front of my desktop and having to buy a monitor new monitor every 6 months, or where you look like
Right.
NASA's Central Command, and you've got, you're drawing 1800 watts because you need like 7 monitors to get anything done. But VR makes it easy, and you see this sort of like this other space that has approached. I talked to Line Turtle a little bit about this at the end of the interview, but are you familiar with like the third space? That idea of a third space?
I'm not.
So this is something that I always think about when I'm here. Is there's a third space theory, is like a sociolinguistic theory, like where it's like so once you get to, like, once you have a society, like, because you got people together, right? They need this place to like to go that isn't home and isn't work, right? And VR chat's really interesting is because it operates as like a third space in VR, right? And so many people think of it as that. Like, nobody says I played VR chat. People say I went to the Black Cat and talked to some friends in VR chat, right? And it's a place. It's not a application or a game. And the concept of it is just awesome. And I think that like third or hybrid. This is a hybrid space technically, but this feels like socializing. Like it's literally socializing in every way except for the physical aspects, and some people have that too, right? So it's really interesting to see what this is, and to see it from that perspective, people take it seriously. They're like, oh, it's like going to the pub, after work, and or having a fantasy football league or whatever. And a lot of video games can say, okay, yeah, we're a third space too, but I think this goes a step further because people come in here to play games or RP or watch movies or um, or whatever, right? Or dance. And lots of people go to the club and dance, right? And these are things that you can do here, and a lot of people do end up doing here. And as you get older too, it's cheaper. In the end, it's more affordable. There's racing communities, and then there's people who build careers here because of that, and that happens in real life too. Like they say, all the best business meetings happen over a pint. That's probably true, and it's super true in here, right?
Yeah,
Like
valid.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll
I can't
say.
tell you how many people have used this as a life hack for upgrading their career, right?
Oh, hands down. No, and that's how these big things, come to be realistically, because it's cheaper, it's more affordable. I mean,
Hmm.
just take a look at some of the creators of VR chat, like the filmmakers, for example. Like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, the filmmakers save literal thousands upon millions of dollars in production, equipment and et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera, et cetera. It's
yeah.
it
Millions
saves
of man
a
hours for sure.
for sure. And, you don't got to be at physical places, because you could just make the world itself. Like, you can make a world for the shoot itself if needed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a low budget version of what is being done at Hollywood right now. If you looked at the way that shows like The Mandalorian were made, they have literally like an LCD screen behind them that has the set that does all the lighting, and then they just composite it afterwards. So like you've got The Mandalorian in his shiny suit, and he's standing on the planet, and the planet is being projected on a TV screen behind him, and if it's not in 3D full 3D production like it is in VR chat, that's the closest thing. But that's how Hollywood does their stuff now too. So all of the skills and all of the lighting and all of this stuff that you learn in here fully translates into the real world of filmmaking too. And you're not losing anything by focusing on virtual production in VR chat. You're gaining real filmmaking skills with angles and shots and positional audio and all that sort of stuff. And it's so hard to explain to people outside of this space what we're doing, or how we're doing it. Like imagine you're on a movie set, like, and we've all got these like trackers with millions of dollars worth of like, R&D that goes into them that like rivals some of the best full body tracking stuff that existed 10 years ago. Hikky's a group of three companies, and one of the three companies we have is a ASAP mocap, and we do motion capture for anime studios and other people who need it like right away. And we have these like OptiTrack systems that are just a little tiny bit more accurate. But you look at groups like Amoka and other groups like people like Neldy and what Vive is doing, and they do like studio production level 3D motion capture, and it's just in VR chat. Like, Fillion does backflips on Twitch every day. Like, it's, who cares, right? Like, you can do it in here. That the fact that we have that as an accessible thing on a consumer level is mind blowing to me. And if you do it right, like, you get this whole other level. That's another reason why I love photogrammetry so much and some of the historical preservation in here, because you can visit a place and feel like you visited a place. Right? We were talking earlier about PONDA scans of Vket reel. He's got one up right now of where the next VCAT reel is going to be. And it's like how to get there from the main station and how to walk into the building. And I've been through that a couple of times now. And I feel confident that I would find the floor easily, right? And that's the beauty of these things, right? You've got this awesome platform here in VR chat that lets you do that kind of stuff. It goes way beyond just hanging out. I think people need to realize that there isn't a lot of social or platforms where you can just pop in 10 minutes, build a Unity scene, and upload it in 10 minutes and have that visceral experience of reality or the next closest thing, right? And I think that's why it works. And that's why it's been around for 10 years, right? People don't realize it's a decade-old application, but it's growing. That's rare.
Oh, hands
That's really
down.
rare unless you're like Windows or like, something like that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's very rare for a software to grow in user base year over year, especially something that's considered like a game to grow in
Right.
user space year over year. They're being smart too, doing things on iOS and Android like makes sense. There's more users that use Quest Android iOS now than there is on PC, and that's just happened. So it's an interesting paradigm. But become more accessible, you get more people. Like there's 40, like if I'm looking at the stats now, there's 41,000 people using something other than Steam, right? So it's pretty good. I'd say more than half people are in VR. That's the other crazy stat too, is that when you look at how many people are here, there's 100,000 captive audience people with a TV strapped to their face, and of those 100,000, I would say probably 70% or more are in a headset. That's nuts.
Oh
Because it's
yeah.
not easy. It's not easy to get a headset. So
Oh yeah. And I mean, even with like, even with the new like the Meta Quest 3S, being the same price as or similar to the price of the Quest 2, which me personally,
yeah,
I don't personally agree with them discontinuing the Quest 2, like
sure.
and Quest Pro, but that's a personal thing more than anything. Just because people like to have options, and
Yep.
if they can down like size the amount it costs for a Quest 2 because of that, I feel like it would entitle more people to join VR and then maybe upgrade to another, headset. I mean, I started with the
Well,
Quest 2 myself.
I think it's important that they build something that's higher, like because faster chips are cheaper every year, so it makes sense. If you look at a cell phone, most people replace their cell phone within 2 to 3 years, right? They're doing it really fast because the tech is also evolving really fast. The fact that they're able to change their tooling and build a new headset is good. I think we'll see the Quest 3S for $100 off like we did the Quest 2. That'll happen, and that'll get way more people in here. Because if you were to say, okay, you got to have a Quest 2, and you put that Quest 2 experience on people, it's really shitty compared to a Quest 3.
True.
And like even
Valid.
even with Fresnel lenses, like the processor's better, everything's better, the hand tracking's better, everything's better. So it makes sense. And yeah, it's the same price as the Quest 2 now, but I'd much rather people use Quest 3S. Like because I want to be able to build stuff that runs good for
Mhm.
everybody. I do a lot of Quest stuff, but at the same time, I think that yeah, it should be cheaper. There should be cheaper options. I'd like to see something like they take the Quest 2 and they make it a wired headset, but because there's a lot more PC gamers out there than there is VR people. But if you could give them something easy, it would make sense. I think it's coming though. I think it's coming. A lot of
Yeah.
people bought a Valve Index. A lot of people bought an HTC Vive. Like a lot of people did. So I think the idea that VR is dying, that like the greater population has this idea that VR is dying or VR makes you motion sick or all this other stuff. I think it's silly. You just got to put
Oh,
some
hands
people on a
down.
headset. I've never had anybody barf at my house, and I've easily put 80 to 100 newbie users into VR in my lifetime. So.
Oh yeah, I say I definitely have about like 10 or 15 under my belt. Just by letting them
Yep.
try. I had some try the Quest 2 back when that was what I ran, and I had like 5 or 6 people try the Quest 3 because they were like, "Oh, should I upgrade?" And I'm like, honestly, if you can afford it, yes, because it is this not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by any means,
They're the
but
only ones making the headset. They're the only ones making the headsets. There are a lot of other ones out there that are going to be like mind-blowingly good, right? But the thing is, it doesn't have to be. I started on a Quest okay. I started on a DK1 and a DK2, right? I used to play VR chat with an Xbox controller and a DK2, and like so did all the rest of us. But
Mm,
when you can see the potential, right? And I think that that's the thing. That's the VR's hardest thing. Is like how do you get people to put a headset on and actually understand this conversation we're having right now? People still think that I'm mocapped or that it was pre-recorded or whatever, right? They don't realize I'm able to do it in real time. And then when I show normies, quote unquote, this kind of stuff, they're freaking mind blown. They just can't wrap their head around it. They're like, how are you doing that? And it's like, this tech has been out for 6, 7 years,
It's
you
funny.
know?
It's funny you mentioned that. Oh my gosh, I love her. I've already mentioned this on another episode, but I'm going to mention it again because I did it again. So, my grandmother, um, she's wanting to be supportive and learn more about what I do, and
Hmm.
like I showed her like oh gosh, I showed her one of the episodes with one of the filmmakers. It was D Ghostly who made Where Withered Flowers Grow, and I show her the
Right.
episode and like she couldn't grasp. She thought it was like complete CGI animated. I'm like, no, like these are
Right.
actual people with headsets on, and controllers. And she asked a
And we were
thousand
recording this
questions.
live.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were recording it
Yeah. It's
live.
not animated, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's she's very supportive. If you ever see this, I love you very much. But it's just it's one of those moments that like I can teach older generations, these types of things, because the chorus that I direct, it's mostly guys over the age of 50, 60. I have some guys that are 80, 85. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah. And it's, they kind of curious about what I do, and I kind of explain to them, and it's a process, but eventually down the line they get it. Um,
Right.
but because a lot, like you said, people think it's mocapped or animated with Blender, or you know
Hmm.
a source filmmaker, if heaven forbid.
If they know that what that is, yeah. But they see a
Yeah.
lot of 3D stuff on TV and commercials, right? And they think it's that, but they don't realize like that's much harder to do than now. And so this is like so accessible, right? That's why it's so big in here, is because it gives that Pixar level 3D mocap stuff to regular people, and it allows regular people to build models. And you have stuff that's like on the level of like early 2000s era 3D, and you have stuff that's like on the level of like modern video games, and you see both in here. And I love Vket for that too, because you can see the progression of people where they come in, they're like, oh, I'm gonna make a model, and they do, and it's like, it's okay, but great first effort, and then 5 years or 3 years later, like you see like they've made a model that's like super viral and everyone's using it. I have all kinds of really great stories like that about people like Jingo, who made the Rindo model in Celestia, and like she came to us at VCAT Reel and said, like, thank you for building VCAT, because like you helped me, like I bought a house, I paid off my college, and
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, it's really cool. It's really
That's
cool. You get to meet a lot of
wholesome.
these really like big creators. Yeah, it's real nice,
That's
and I think
really
that
wholesome.
drives me.
Oh,
That
hands
drives me
down.
so much, because you hear that, and tons of creators too, people like TFM Johnny and Fillion and Shy Lily and all of these VTubers. They all owe their start to the Four Kings, which was like Kizuna Ai and people like Mirai Akari, right? Like those early VTubers. And Mirai Akari, if you didn't know, was made by Digitrevix.
Oh,
Mirai
wow.
Akari is one of the first four big VTubers in the world, like by far, and Digitrevix did her design. And Digi obviously is quite active, or was quite active in VR chat. Did Club Volt, made Project Melody, did like all kinds of other VTubers that you see these days. And he's also in the intro on VRChat's website. You go to VRChat, like hello.vrchat.com, and you'll see the dude with the base cannon, like the giant freaking Gatling gun thing. That's Digitrix, and
Oh,
he's
wow.
also one of the creators of the first like big VTubers in the world. And so VTubing owes itself to Miku Miku Dance, and in no small part VRChat as well, because 3D models actually came first before Live 2D was a thing, right? So
Mm.
that we're still here, still making stuff. So I think the accessibility of it is incredible, and that whole thing took off because of three-dimensional like Unity and Unreal based platforms like this. So the fact that everybody can do this stuff now without needing to have a studio behind it is just awesome. And hats off to VR Chat for building what they're building. They want to be Snow Crash, they want to be Ready Player One. I get it, and it's good that they keep that as part of their principles, and we have that too. Like we have this first principle where we have a creative revolution going on, and I really vibe with that. And I'm not just being a corporate shill. Like I wouldn't be working for the company if I didn't believe in it. And
Hmm.
what they're trying to do is enabling more stuff like that to happen, right? By doing out of the box marketing, by doing like attracting big companies like Mazda to do VCAT, right? And Audi and Disney. And if it's strange that they come and they do that here, but it makes you want to support those companies more, because they get it. They got people there that get it, and get what we do. And I want more people to get what we do. That's what drives me, right? And I could see that being or happening more and more in the future. I think this year has been interesting because I've had more interviews than I've ever had before. So it's really, I think it's starting to resonate with people. Like there's an audience to hear about this stuff, and people are interested in it. And I could see it growing up into something where, it won't just be us doing it in VR. It'll be people like Joe Rogan covering what's happening in the metaverse, and I could see that happening, in the not too
It's
distant
happened
future.
twice already. It was like
Well,
one.
yeah, he has mentioned us a
Yeah.
couple of times. Yeah.
But um which is funny because I don't even watch Joe Rogan like that, but somebody had mentioned to me like, oh, they talked about VR chat. I'm like, oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah, one of his guests was a big fan. Like that's awesome. It's
Yeah.
good it's interesting to see. But like you have to, like, regardless of what your opinion is, like they're like one of the biggest podcasts in the world, right? So it'd be
Right.
like us being on The View or like, on Ellen. Like it's crazy to think, but it happens, right? Subcultures get highlighted eventually and become part of regular culture. For the longest time, people were saying, "Oh, who needs a home computer? Like nobody needs a home computer. What the heck?" And then we all have home computers in our pockets. You know what I mean? Like,
Strapped to our
right?
heads.
Exactly. Everyone's got it. So it's just a matter of time. And people who can predict what technology is going to be the next big thing, are the ones who make it. And I feel like this is one of those things. It's not going to be a niche forever. I think that this conversation we're having feels very natural. It's just like sitting down with somebody in real life, And I mean, we might look a little different, we might have glowy bits and stuff,
Yeah.
but whatever. Like that's you wish you could wear clothes like this in real life. Some people do, but like you wish you could, and that's the cool thing about it. Like I don't think it's going to be any different. The more people we get into these spaces, the more people will just accept it as a normal thing, and then that's when we win, right? Like first they hate you, then they, and then they ignore you, then you win, that kind of thing, right?
Oh, for sure. Hey, everyone. Just want to pause the episode right here to say an amazing thank you for the Noved Squad community and all the amazing, generous people that help support the podcast. We finally now have an actual computer to where we can actually do things and, make more progression when it comes to the quality of the content that you see. Of course, I couldn't have done it without all the amazing people. All their names will be right around here. I want to thank every one of them so very much, as well as all the anonymous donators that helped me get the PC. It means the world that you guys want to support me and my projects. I could go on, but long story short, thank you. And of course, if any of you are interested in, joining the Noved Squad group and, supporting the stuff, feel free to join the VRC group, NOVED.6608. That's the group code. And of course, make sure to follow it on all the social medias and all that. But yeah, that's all I want to say. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. But with that, let's get back into the episode. Take it away. But yeah, so kind of to go back into like some of the upcoming things, and when it comes to Vket. So as we've said earlier, so this episode is on December 7th, which is the first day of Winter and Music Vket 6 to be specific.
Yeah, look for me at the opening ceremony. Yeah.
So I guess one of the things that I want to ask, yeah, say, well, yeah, definitely if go check out the opening ceremony, you can pause right here and just go watch the opening ceremony. If not, the VODs are somewhere probably.
They will be.
But so I guess one of the things I want to ask in that regard, so what is something with this Winter VCAT and Music VCAT that, in your opinion, is an overall improvement compared to previous VCATs and Music VCATs?
Well, I would say for sure the number of Western participants is bigger this time. We do hold a lottery, so there was a chance that even though all of you applied, nobody got in. I took a moment because Music VCAT is really special to me, but we usually hold them as a separate event. This time, Music VCAT is attached, and I don't know if it's because we've kind of run out of artists that want to exhibit, or which I don't think that's it. But I just think it's hard to do. Music VCAT is actually like technically very hard to do because of licensing and other things like that happen in Japan. And original musicians are really difficult. Like people like yourself who actually make music, quite difficult. Not as hard in Japan, but it's a big country. And they got 130 million people. So that's a little easier, but it's special because it's happening at the same time. So we'll get some of the same hype that's happening there, and I think that's really cool. Definitely the Western participation is awesome. Like there's a lot of people. The fact that we were able to pull it off in a shorter period of time than we normally do, and still have 30 something worlds. We do 30 something worlds every 6 months or so, right? So you can imagine like the development cycle is insane. But it is stressful, but I think that's one of the coolest things. We got a lot more Western attention this time. Since summer 2024, we've had VR chat at the IRL convention as well as a direct partner. There's a lot more interactive games. There's a lot more things that you can do, like games and worlds and ways to participate in the event in a very serious way. There's more hype, and I think people are more hype. Our community is more hype. Like the global team operates sort of like as a like a global fandom of VCat, and that's kind of like the way we run things, and we'd prefer to do it that way. It's more fun, and there's definitely been more interested people doing more stuff and being having more participation. In 2024, we got for the first time, and this has been a thing for years on the Japan team. We got our ambassadors, and having the ambassadors as part of the global ambassadors, so PGKT as a group, as ambassadors of VCat, and having like big streamers like Johnny and Ayumi One-san and documentarians like Karen and Parzival and and people who are really passionate about different types of communities and different groups of communities, people like Shadow River and that like who are sort of outside what a lot of other people think of. Like he's part of like kimono communities and Mokuri and a shader creator and like we've got people from everywhere and we've got they all have different skill sets. People like DBQT are building prefabs for VCat now, which is something that was sort of relegated to only Japanese people or myself. And it's really cool to see that. So I'm really excited. I don't even know all the Western exhibitors that are here. I think I know a lot of them, but I don't know all of them, and I'm sure I'm going to be surprised. I'm going to be walking through VCat and see all of these different Western exhibitors I didn't know were going to be there. That I'm super excited about. We're still kind of up in the air for music events. I'm also super excited about that. I want to see who and what is going to do what during the event itself. I've heard some rumors from some other people, so that'll be fun. I want everybody to have a good time. I'll be in Japan for half of it, so I'll be watching closely and have my headset there and participating as much as I can. But I really want to. I think that's what I'm most excited about. Is that even more so than summer? There's way more Western people this time, so it's going to feel like a global event, and that I'm excited about, right? Because
Oh,
it could have been
wow.
luck. Maybe it was all Japanese. We also have the largest amount of people applying we've ever had, which is mind blowing. So to double the application count every time is nuts. So we only have so much like human bandwidth to develop things. And to see the numbers of like every world go from like we have 80 slots in the world to have 160 applicants in every single world is just crazy. So it shows that people are really interested in that. More people are figuring out that you can build a circle together and make booths together, even if you don't get in. So that's another thing. And people are starting to really understand it. I don't know if you know what VCat's sort of modeled after, but it's very similar to any other comic convention you'd find in Japan, like
Hmm.
Comicat. Like it's a market, and comics market is Comicat, and VCat is virtual market or VCat, right? So we're not related to Comicat, but we run the same way. It's like there's a limited number of spaces, and you get these doujinshi comic book artists that come in, and that convention's nuts. They get 700,000 people every time, and it's lineups from 4 in the morning until the end of the night when they close, where people just hoping to buy one copy of one comic from their favorite artist. And at least with VCat, we don't have to worry about having to be there being a lineup. So we end up with 1.7, 1.8 million people in the virtual side, and that's great because there's physical limitations to something like Comic-Cat, but there isn't for VCat. So I'm really excited to see what our numbers are like by the end of it, to see how many people have really like finally seen what this is, because it's still a mystery. I still get into public instances and people go, well, VCat, what's that? I was like, do you ever look at your world menu? Like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like,
No,
but
I
so
say it's a
I got a
giant
very
bar
different
just right
perspective.
here.
Yeah, I've got a very different perspective on the event. It's for me, like I understand how big it is, and I understand like the number of people that are involved in building it, and the number of people that show up and see it. But I'm finally glad that the rest of the world is paying attention. It's like Japan is cool. I think that's like culturally people think Japan is like cool and hip and new, and a lot of the stuff that they do there, all these people have that's like everything Japan does. It's pretty awesome. And people are starting to see, oh well, there's this thing called VCat, and people are starting to see it. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for this like cultural global representation that's going to happen there. But I think some of our worlds are also super dope.
Hmm.
Imperial Mount Fuji has some really, really exciting and fun, just like fun gimmicks that are going to be in it. Gachatopia is going to be awesome. We've got we got a circus fun land. Like there's all kinds of fun stuff that's coming. It's gonna be pretty great. I think people will really enjoy this one.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Because ironically, I personally won't be there until the 8th. Because unfortunately, and I'm
That's fine.
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, my team at PJKT, because they already know. Because I was actually supposed to be working with them for like the opening ceremony and stuff. But unfortunately, one of
Mm-hmm.
the course I direct, it's our Christmas show that day, the same day, and
Hey.
it's yeah. But I'll be there for the
that's why
rest of
that's
it.
why
It'll
we
be a fun
pushed our
time.
event a little earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we didn't want to do it over the New Year. We've done that before. We didn't want to do it over Christmas. We wanted to give we like, and I think it's really cool of Hikky to like recognize that it's a global phenomenon now, and to give that space to people, right? Because they know this time of year is real busy for a lot of people, and to do it from the 7th, it's in 13 days, but to do it from the 7th to the 21st, so over 16 days or so, is good. Like I think that that's actually good for like the health of the event, and it gives people time to have like a work life or a VR life balance, which some people need, I think. That's for sure.
No, for sure. Um, so I know you kind of briefly mentioned some of the worlds. So I guess one of the questions I want to ask, what, in your opinion, when it comes to this year's VCAT, because
Mhm.
this episode will be live and they'll be able to see them all. So what is something when it came to these worlds that they should exclusively like go check out, make sure to go see, like in that regard?
Okay, so yeah, so there's three parallel worlds. I have to say this because I'll say this first. VCAT is not about the corporate sponsorship, but it exists because of the corporate sponsorship. So they sponsor us because people are coming here anyway. Like they're gonna come check out VCAT because we spend, and a lot of people think, oh, it's this big corporate event. I really want people to understand that VCAT isn't a corporate event, or like really isn't meant to be. And people see it as like, oh, VR chat's selling out, and a lot of people even think that VCAT is a VR chat thing, and it's us, right? It's Hikky.
Right.
But at the same time, like it is in partnership with them, but it's not VRChat selling out. It's not a corporate thing. Yes, there's corporate companies there, but they're only in three worlds, and we do those worlds last, just so you know. The worlds that we pay the most attention about are the other worlds that have regular people like you and me in them doing regular exhibits, right? So we care way more about the community. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times two. So there is 22 worlds that are just like non-corporate regular individual creator worlds. People should check out those worlds most of all. Make sure you do those. But the corporate worlds are limited time. So you can only ever go to Parareal, Mount Fuji, Odaiba, and Las Vegas during the VCAT event period, but don't make that the only thing you do. Definitely check out
Mm.
every other world. And a lot of people miss the Quest worlds too. Like we do Quest exclusive or cross-platform exclusive worlds every time. Music VCAT will be Quest. So more worlds are Quest than there are PC only worlds. So definitely go check those out too. And they're not the same. Like I know Groove Ground Graph City are like graffiti art uh, inspired world that was at the last VCAT, but the people in those worlds are completely different. It's all new exhibitions, so don't like ignore those. Go to Castello Magica, go to Nocturnal, go to Groove Ground Graph City, because what you're gonna see there is all new, right? Like it's all new stuff with new people. So that's always like really, really fun. There's also going to be if you guys liked the boss battle in last VCAT, by the time they're seeing this, they'll know that there's a boss battle in Isekai Marsh as well. So that I'm in that world too, so I got a little bit of a bias, but in Isekai Marsh, it's like the conclusion or the prequel to a story that has been one of the most popular VCAT maps from the beginning. So Isekai Marshes are very sword art online, like it's an isekai. It's like different world, other world. Right? We got
Right.
sucked into VR and hit by a truck. And we joke about that all the time, right? Isekai stuff.
Yeah.
And Isekai Marsh was like the first fantasy world, like one of the first fantasy worlds we ever did, a VCAT. And the idea was, very sword art, very high fantasy, and there was this persistent story that sort of continued on. And some of the earliest people who wrote the worlds, Keita Hayashi is our story writer. He's continued a bunch of these storylines, and so the Isekai Marsh one will be really cool. The fantasy dragons fighting a boss. Definitely check that one out. I think that'll be very, very fun. I think you'll have a ton of fun with it. That one has a lot more gimmicks and stuff like that I think people will enjoy. Because it's that we don't get a lot of fantasy stuff in here. We get a lot of cyberpunky stuff. High like science fictiony stuff in VR chat. There's less
Mhm.
like high fantasy, and this world is like gonna have some fun stuff. And if fans of Lakuza's like boss battle legend worlds and stuff like that, I think you'll enjoy that one a lot. It'll be pretty fun. That's a that one is a standout for me for sure. Sky Park will be cool too. I think that one will fly under the radar a little bit. It's like Mall of America, but inside VR chat. So it'll be pretty fun.
Huh.
And so like it's all
Fair
kinds
enough.
of cool stuff. I think yeah, but definitely check out the boss battle at Isekai Marsh Frontline Stand. A lot of people missed that stuff. There's a whole boss battle at the end of Parareal Okinawa at the last one, and you needed 40 people to do it. And people didn't know that, and so a lot of people missed that one. And then a lot of people missed at Komurasaki Village, our first like real effort horror map. A lot of people missed the horror part at the end of the map, right? Like they didn't know it was
Yeah.
there.
No, I'll say.
So there's secrets in every VGet.
Yeah, I'll say in regards to the horror one, because you guys also exhibited at HorrorCon as well, Project HorrorCon, and it was me and Spades actually, because we were part of the World Hop event that was going on, and we made sure we actually split it up into two groups because of how big the group was.
Yep.
So it was me in one instance and Spades in another, and we just took the entire group of people through both maps. They had to get the code.
Nice.
Okay, time to go through this experience. All right, now we got to get the horror one. And it was funny because like getting to hear some of the reactions throughout, because I had to go up ahead and go behind, make sure people weren't falling behind, and just hearing all the different reactions was just absolutely hilarious. People getting scared by the jump scares. So I do want to commend Hikky and the Vket team, for making that, because it was really impressive. I was not
Thank you.
I was not expecting like a horror map to
deep horror, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, and even like the first like the mini experience, where you get the code, it's even that was like a lot of improvement.
It's eerie.
That eerie feeling. But no, as far as I've been a VR chat player, and I've seen VCat grow, it's definitely been a wild thing to see how far you guys have taken it over at Hikky.
Yeah, we build a lot of new tech too, right? Like a lot of stuff that we build, like we try different things that people haven't done before, like having stuff in the mirrors and having stuff like even Curiosity, which is kind of like a goofy Christmassy horror map that we had back in VCat 4. That one had like this secret event where you're essentially being followed around by ghosts and don't know it, and having them in the camera. So a lot of people take pictures in the world and stuff, and then they take their camera out and they go look at their photos afterwards, and there's freaking ghosts everywhere, and they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" And that was like a touch of kind of what we started with. But there's always been like a bunch of innovation in some of the stuff. Some of it's limited time though, right? Like, and having cool people on the team like Remhack, particle masters like Remhack, and other like really good programmers like Mizuna, and people like Vogan for a time. It's really nice to have those folks like working on stuff and creating new things. I feel very lucky that I'm able to work on concepts and build things like wristband systems that control the world before that was a thing, and other stuff like that, right? It's nice to have that innovation, and the way that they did that world I think was really good, because Japan is not super big on horror. Their spooky season is the summertime for sure, and so that map actually it's even scarier for someone from Japan, because it's based on this like urban legend of a town stuck in time, and it's a creepypasta, believe it or not, on like their image boards. It was an old creepypasta that it's based on, and there's been anime. Like if you watch the new anime that's airing right now, Dandadan, if you watch that anime, the first episode is the same urban legend as Komurasaki Village. So
wow.
There you go. Like the first character in the first episode is like it is the same urban legend of like a weird town stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Fair enough. No, and that's really cool that that you guys took it kind of from a creepypasta style, and made it into this giant experience that people can enjoy. That's
it's
really
interesting.
cool.
There's a lot of like talented folks that have done a lot of really cool stuff that are at Hikky that they kind of like, it's like a second life. For example, in the VR tabletop gaming exhibition right now, the musician behind that is Kagetora, who does a lot of sets in VR chat. And a lot of people don't realize who Kagetora is. He's actually like a musician for games like Taiko no Tatsujin and other other like rhythm games that you've played. So if you've played like Sound Voltex, you've heard his music. And
Mm.
like, he just casually does DJ stuff in here and does music for Vket, does music for other maps, and people don't realize, oh, like this guy is actually like he's really well established. We have people from Iosis in here, and they don't know it. In terms of creepypasta stuff, Ikra, one of our PR people, and does a lot of social media stuff over here at Hikky, and does a lot of the opening ceremonies for things like Music Vk. He's really passionate about that as well. He's the administrator for the Japanese SCP wiki. So
Wow.
you'd be surprised. Like
Fair enough.
there's a lot of people at Hikky that do a lot of really cool stuff, and you may not know it, right? Like, and Japan also does that where they have like a lot of altars where like they don't talk about their work, or it's very NDA, so it's just a completely separate world. So there's a lot of like really talented people, and in the West too, and in Europe and the rest of the world that are here making cool stuff, but their day job is like maybe a game industry or a company that you've played or really enjoy their games, right? Like maybe they're here, and that's true. Like that's very true. Like you meet people every day that you may not know it, but you probably know them, in some way, shape, or form. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of people here in stealth mode too, which is really cool.
Oh, hands down, yeah. Well, that's what's up. I'll say, yeah. No, there's a lot of, and that just not only within Hikky, but like within VR chat. There are
Yeah.
so many, 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 many different talented, amazing individuals.
I could prattle them off all day. Like some of
Yeah.
them are public about it. Like a good example is Miss Stabby. Everybody knows her as a DJ. But she actually is the one of the key shader artists at Dice. So if you've ever played any of
Mm.
Dice's shooter games, first person shooter games, she probably made the shader that made the lens on your scope work, or the inside of the helicopter. So there you go. And she's got a map here in VR chat, like a bunch of them actually. Go check it out. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'll say,
crazy, right?
yeah. VR chat is kind of to brief it up. I'll say VR chat is definitely an endless infinite creative space that literally you
hmm
could literally meet somebody in any world, and there's a good chance they do something in this platform, you
Yeah,
know
yeah. Not just in that platform or outside of it, right? In
or
software
yeah,
development or whatever it is they do.
whatever the case may be, right? Whether it's music related,
hmm
game development, um you know vocalists, musician, DJs. I mean, I said musicians, but you get the point. Like, there's hundreds
hmm
of careers out there. I've met people who've done construction, and I've met military. Like, it's crazy what this platform
Yeah,
can do to bring people together.
yeah, and it's done in almost like a accidental way, which I think is something that we missed. With the internet, people put themselves in these little like topical bubbles, right? Where they only interact with the stuff they like, and they only interact with the platforms that vibe with them, or they only these algorithms curate everything you see, right? And VR chat is one of those ways to break out of that algorithm really nicely, because you end up in these social spaces with 80 people, and they come from all walks of life, and they do different things, and that helps you find your own passions too, or find people like friends that you wouldn't find otherwise. And we used to do that a lot more before COVID. We used to do a lot more. We used to go out and have rugby, and you do barbershop quartets and stuff like that, right? Like you do barbershop work, and like you do music, and those. But that's becoming like, I think the younger generations don't do that as much. They don't go out, and they don't have clubs. They don't do that stuff as much, and this gives people that experience without having to physically get out of the house sometimes. And that's like the ease you into that social experience that I think every human being needs, that we don't get otherwise, right? And it's way better than a Discord call. Like
Oh,
way better than a Discord call.
hands down better than a
Yeah.
Discord call. But yeah, no, Lon, dude, we're actually this is definitely gonna be my longest episode, but it's fine. Because honestly, I was
I can
enjoying
do this
it.
all day. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. No, it was fantastic. I want to ask one more question before
Sure.
I let you tell the audience where they can find you and Vket and Hikky and all that. So one of the questions I wanted to ask, since you've been doing this for such a long time,
Mm.
what is one piece of advice you can give to, like, let's say somebody who's interested in doing something, in the span of, like, VCAT making like a giant convention
Oh, sure.
festival. Like, what is one piece of advice that you can give?
Start small. Sometimes the smallest stuff is the best. The first VCAT was one world with two sections. That was it. There's like 16 exhibitors. Start small. People outside of this space and people in this space too, actually, are way more impressed than you think you are with your own self, like with what you accomplished, right? People outside of your sphere, like if you make a world in VR chat, 90% of the players in VR chat don't make worlds in VR chat. So if you can get that far, okay, great. So you've already done something that 90% of people don't do. And don't let it get to your head, but that will help you feel confident to do more, right? And everyone else is more impressed than you are with your own stuff. Always, And you're like, "Oh, I'm just a guy. I can't do anything." I feel like that every single day. And I understand that I hold this privileged position and a lot of people look up to me. I finally accepted that. But at the same time, I think that everybody else is cooler than me, and I keep that attitude is always a good thing. But don't discount what you can do and what people will think of what you do, because it's always going to be good. So if you want to build a big convention, start with a small convention that's in a single world, and if you get 5 exhibitors, whatever, make the whole thing about those 5 people, and then just keep growing it from there. Sometimes you gotta branch out. You gotta tell other people what you're doing. You gotta do interviews like this. You gotta put yourself on social media. You gotta talk to other folks who want to collaborate with you, and that's how you can build a VKit. Right? I really wish that Fio's book was translated into English because he's written a whole novel on this, and you can buy it on Amazon. But having been here as well and having run other conventions too, I get it too. Like you got to start small. So start with building a world. Spooky Ghost Boo has the largest virtual space, metaversal space, the most visited metaversal space in the entire world. And they started off as just a regular creator in VR chat who happened to build a really nice Quest compatible map when Quest took off. It's all about timing sometimes too, so you may not succeed the first time, but if you hit the niche that people want to be into, and even if you don't, you can grow slowly or you can grow fast. You can be Sasuke or you can be Rock Lee. It's one or the other. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one or the other. And it's either hard work and persistence, or you hit the right moment where a talent that you have is seen by everyone. So keep yourself out there. Don't expect to just become popular because you made something cool. You have to talk to other people, and collaboration is key. If you don't collaborate or put yourself in a VCAT or do something like that, people will miss what you do. And you are always more like it's impossible to tell people how much work something is when you do it, right? And I feel like I do. Like I've done a lot of work, but a lot of the work I do is invisible at VCAT, but I'm still grinding every day. And because of the out in front stuff, a lot of people are like, what do you do here, right? And a lot actually, but it's hard to. It's always going to be that way no matter what it is you do. Like I'm sure every placement of everything in this little world that we're in here today was an agonizing decision as you build things out, right? And the aesthetics of it and everything. Everyone's picture of how much work something is much smaller, but they'll still be incredibly impressed. So start small. Do the biggest convention you can manage to do in the medium amount of time, right? And also put it out. I will praise Lakuza for building an incredible game, but 6 years is a long time. And there are people who are quick at putting things out, and people who will agonize over every detail. And I think that depending on what it is, if you're collaborating, put it out quickly, and it'll still be good. If you're looking to make a masterpiece, put out a lot of little what they call a scrapbook artwork. And even if you're putting out a lot of little scrapbook artwork, start there, and because you'll always learn something as you're building those things out, which can contribute to the bigger project. There's nothing wrong with having a magnum opus. That's great, but don't remember, just like every great artist has to eat. So even if you're set and you have time to work on things, work on little things first and build it up. And that's how everything started. Like I started by uploading an avatar or two, and then a world or two, and then getting to know people, and then getting to work on some of the largest worlds and biggest collaborations in VR chat. And I started small, and everyone should start small. Build a world, build a black hat, build a black hat, something like that, something small, and then become something bigger. It takes time. You have to snowball, and you can't snowball unless you involve other people. Right? There's 3,000 exhibitors every VCAT. It's crazy. And because of that, we make 8,000 new items, new 3D models. And not all of them are hits. But you get your occasional one, like Mama Hinata, who made, or Kageyama, who made the little Mama Hinata model. And that model is like intensely popular. And just Konchan was from Midori. Like that Konchan was like intensely popular. But they made a ton of other stuff too that nobody ever saw. So sometimes you just got to keep making things, and don't be afraid to put out something you think you're not 110% happy with, because 80% of it will be loved by everybody, right? Everybody sees things differently, and you are always your worst critic. So don't think that the best thing you put out, because sometimes the best thing you put out will get seen by nobody. So it's frequency of action that starts bringing people to your group. It's like, you're on your 41st podcast now. I'm sure the first few, nobody knew who you were, but now people want to be on your podcast, right? Like, it takes time.
No, it's definitely a snowball effect, as you said. Now I've got enough now I've got enough people on my my ticket list for until the next year. Like,
yeah, there you go, right? So yeah, snowball. Put things out. Don't think that the best work you can do is what has to be there. Put out things that people will find interesting and just kind of build from there, right? Even if it's small. If you want to build a convention on a niche, but make it one world to start. Virality started that way. Vket started that way. We all started that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a very wise piece of advice. Starting small.
Start small, put something up. But you gotta continuously be in people's faces, right?
That's true. And you gotta do it the correct way, or else it could go bad. You gotta be able to market in a proper sense. You can't just be going to Twitter DMs and, like, I don't know. That's a me thing. Like, it's one thing to
I agree.
broadcast, but there's another to, like, get too personal, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think the best thing is to make genuine relationships in here first. Like, figure out what people want and fill a void. Right? With CozyCon, they fill a void that exists. Right? Like Lilithor and stuff, and the people who work on that, they fill a void that there really isn't something like CozyCon, and so they have this niche. And Vket is more all encompassing, but at the time we were a niche, and it's interesting. And Project Community, for example, they fill a void where there isn't a festival for creators, so, like, for groups specifically, and they fill a void, and so that's why it works, right? And I think that, make genuine relationships in here, and like you said, don't spam people with DMs and stuff to try to make your thing work. Try to fill a void. Like, every VTuber has a topic that they're into. You got people like Kiri Kilovolt, who is like, I'm a racing giraffe, and so they've got racing fans, right? And that's very unique. And that sort of works because we've hit peak saturation. Or find something new, right? Like I said earlier with VTubing, there was a point when VTubing was new, right? And find a niche that no one else is doing, and then build it off that. It's something, especially if you're passionate about it yourself, right?
Yeah,
or do the same thing that other people are interested in, but differently. Like, kind of like how Midnights in Valhalla took the aesthetic of Valhalla, the game, and brought it and created something bigger around the character and the map and VR chat, right? But they did it the right way by getting the rights to do it. So even if it's an interest, like laser tag is interesting to people, and xCirrex has a version of it here. So it can be
two versions of it now.
Like an evolution. Yeah, it can be an evolution. It can be an evolution of something people are already into. Do that too. That works too.
Yeah. No, hands down. Dude, Lhun, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, it like, post editor, I'm sorry, bro. You're gonna have a fun time with this one. But realistically, like, with how much we talked about, like, this is absolutely amazing. But before we call it a done deal, and do all the post ending stuff, tell the people, well, where they can find you, where they can find, Hikky, Global, Vket, all the stuff. But yeah, take it away.
All right, so we'll start. Let's snowball the answer. So, if you're first hearing about Vket for the first time, or Virtual Market for the first time, or Hikky, or the Japanese event scene, go to about.vket. It's VKET. So about.vket.com. That website will give you, like, the rundown, the base information of who we are as a company, what we do, and what we do outside of VR chat as well. And then, since this is going on our opening ceremony, go to event.vket.com to learn all about Vket, or you can pull up your VR chat menu and you'll see Virtual Market and its 30 plus worlds in that world ribbon. In there's an events list where we'll have our ambassadors and our community collab creators, and you can create another event as well. So if you want to run a world hop, we got a bulletin board that's on there, so you can gather people in and do that. For social media, we're on everything. Best place right now is probably X, or formerly Twitter. That's ENVket. For myself, it's DYLHUN. I guess I'll get that secret away. My name is Lhun. My name is Dylan. It's Dylan. You know, there you go. So that's the secret.
I knew I was
It's
saying it right.
Lhun, right? You got it. So so that's me. But DYLHUN on X, and I repost a lot of VCAT related stuff, but also cool things people are doing in social spaces, especially VR. I'm a technologist too, so you'll find a lot of really interesting stuff there. I like to talk about computers and tech. For everything else, about.vcat.com, event.vcat.com, and every other social media, you'll find VCAT Chan. We also do a weekly live stream on Twitch under VCAT channel. So go check us out there. You can join us. We do the World Hop. It's public. You can come to that World Hop, and we go through the old worlds, and I'll talk to you for another 2 hours about VCAT and exhibiting at VCAT. And that's how people find their way into this is to hang out with us during those World Hops.
Well, speaking of those world hops, because technically there is a certain way that they do have to get there. I believe there's a certain group code that you should definitely advertise.
Oh yeah, yeah. So if you search VCAT GT in groups, that's us. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find us at discord.gg/VCATGT as well. But it is VCATGT.3224. That is how you find us.
Yeah. Groups. We love groups.
Yep, groups are great.
But yeah, no, Lhun, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was an absolute blast. Kind of get to know a little bit of your history and
no, it's super fun.
More about you. It's nice to kind of finally have a sit down like this, and
yeah, you and I are so busy, we never get to do this, right?
For sure. No, busy, yeah. Just knock on wood real quick.
We've known each other at least 3 to 4 years, right? Something like that.
About 3-4 years. Yeah, that sounds
give
about
or
right.
take. Yeah, give or take. The time passes faster the older you get, right? Every day. So cherish your time while you can in your 20s. But I will say this: never feel old. I'm surrounded by the energy of all you guys, and it's that keeps me feeling young. So.
No, absolutely. But ladies, gentlemen, everybody inside and outside the ballpark, that is it for episode 41 of the Noved Notes podcast. I do want to thank Lhun for coming on. Please make sure to go check out all the links. They'll be down in the description. Comment down below.
In the doodly-doo.
Yeah, in the doodly-doo. In the comment section, comment down below. What's your favorite VCAT map ever? What is your favorite VCAT map? It could be regular VCAT, summer, winter, comic, music
VCAT, comic VCAT.
There's a lot. There's a lot of maps. If you don't,
300 now.
I believe it.
300 maps now.
I believe it. But yeah, comment down below what's your favorite VCAT map. I guarantee some of the VCAT ambassadors might check it out because I'll throw it in the VCAT server as well, just like I do all the other episodes. But yeah, comment down below what's your favorite VCAT map. Of course, feel free, if you enjoyed what we talked about, feel free to click that like button. And if you're coming back to see some of the other episodes, why not hit that subscribe button? You're already coming back anyway. And with that, I want to thank you all one last time for enjoying. Lhun, thank you again for coming on.
Peace.
But yeah, take care and peace.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to